Well, welcome everybody. We're really excited about today's program with the smart ass tools that will be presented by our three co-hosts and smart ass specialists. We'll learn more about that in a moment. You're here at the Construction Tech Tuesday by Passive House Accelerator, and we're a collaborative online platform for sharing innovation and thought leadership in passive house design and construction. We publish articles and interviews, produce weekly virtual confabs with passive house pioneers from around the world, and elevate the work and programming of the passive house movement's leaders, practitioners, and organizations through interviews, articles, social media campaigns, videos, podcasts, and more. Our aim is to catalyze zero carbon building by accelerating the adoption of passive house building. With our co-hosts, Shaun St-Amour, Kevin Brennan, and Mark Wille, we have launched Construction Tech Tuesday to share the technique, and the technology of passive house construction tech. Each week, we'll welcome guest practitioners to dive into the details of practice with the builder and tradesperson as our target audience. We welcome folks from all corners of the construction and design world to join us each week. And with that, I will hand it off to our capable co-hosts.
Just welcome to Smart Ass Tools. This is my week to pick a topic and present. And this one to me was something that hit home in that every project I work on, we use intricate tools to air seal buildings. And I wanted to share and start up a group conversation about, where these tools come from, where these innovations happen. We work in an industry where innovation happens at that leading edge, and us working towards the passive house levels of airtightness make us really have really great tools to do an excellent job. So I hope to share and to show you guys some pictures and some talk about lessons learned on how I've worked on some air sealing projects and what tools I use to achieve those practices. But test, press, check, and then do it more efficient is always the next way, is kind of like my rule of thumb.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this lovely planet. Thank you for being here. For that picture you just saw of our smart-ass tools, yeah, that's the cluster of my tools that I laid out in my garage to kind of show you how messy I am. I do try to keep my toolbox tight and clean, but we got lots of fun tools to show you today. For those that don't know me, I'm Shaun St-Amour, and I became a certified passive house tradesperson in 2017. And at 475, I've been involved in a lot of projects. You could kind of say kilometers worth of tapes and membranes, and I've learned a few tips and tricks, and I'm eager to pass them on because we need all of you to know how to use this stuff so we can scale and accelerate the industry of air sealing. So over to you, Mark.
I'm stunned by that statement. A kilometer's worth. You mean several kilometers.
We could talk chain lengths. We could talk all kinds of lengths, but I'm not talking.
Do we measure it by portaging at all? Okay.
Yeah.
So good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here on Tuesday night. If you haven't met me, my name is Mark Wille, and I look forward to meeting you. I'm thrilled with the topic today that Kevin picked. We go about these topics in a unique way of bringing the technical, the technique, and the technology. So I've been a builder, carpenter for a long time, as well as been involved in materials and educating and promoting for quite a bit. So I'm thrilled with the topic at hand, and glad to see some familiar faces, and also very thrilled to see some fresh faces. So feel free to introduce yourself in the chat section. If you don't like someone, keep that to yourself, because this is a sharing community, and we like you, and we're going to keep loving on that until we're all friends and doing better.
So we talk about smart-ass tools. First tool we need, safety glasses. We got to get ourselves safety prepared. So let's get this thing started. I can't put the earplugs in or the mask because you won't be able to see me. So we got that first. We're all safe, ready to learn a few things. So most job sites, you either have your typical tool belt. For air sealing, I kind of work with a small guy, small DeWalt one, where I've got my tape measure, knife, and I'm going to show you some scissors in a second here. And then a tool to press the tape in. So those are the typical ones you need on hand. And the first one I get into is most jobs, when you're dealing with high performance tape, you're just using the regular sharp knife. But on a cold day, this thing can take off a couple digits. I may have sliced and put a couple scars into my hands. But I actually like, with high performance tapes, using scissors. And you might say, Shaun, those are kid scissors you stole from your kid's collection, perhaps, but they actually still work. Or you can use some of the longer ones and work quite well for the high performance tapes. Reason that I like them is I don't have to change blades at the end of the work day. Using either goof off or acetone can quickly clean these things up and can make that happen. And yes, Louise, I am looking at the questions, and so the answer is yes to that one. So, so those are the first ones. So cutting tapes, you can use a knife. Scissors is good. Another trick as well is with the tape is if I cut off a piece, it's kind of like origami with tapes. A lot of times, these high performance tapes, I'm trying to get them, into places. But one thing you can do with tape, with scissors, is, so I'm going to try to zoom in here. So I got, again, a piece of tape. You can do a little origami. I'm going to keep bending it so that it's kind of like a good nubbin. And so when I cut off the tip, I'll actually have a circle. And so if you had to get over, so there's my little trick for the day. Right? So you can create a circle. So scissors work out quite well for getting around and being creative. The next tool I wanted to showcase is, keep going here with what I wanted to show, is pressing our high performance tapes. So 475 has a press fix, Sega has one, Partel has one, or Partel calls the helping hand. But again, it's using a tape to ensure that you're pressing it in to get the adhesive to activate. One thing that I've learned from our good friend Jesse Matthews, who's from RDH in Toronto, is to make sure you don't lose your tape, is you get one of these wheels. So you slap it on your tool belt, and there you go, Norm. Nice work, Norm. Norm's got one. Is being able to, ensuring if you're on a tall ladder or if you're up on a scaffold, that you don't lose the one thing that you've got handy. So, so I just put a hole in it, got my retractable wheel, I got it work. Now, on some other projects, you might need a bigger one. So like this is our Press Fix XL. But if I get away from the names, one of the tools I like to actually use for pressing the tapes is this Easy Tuck tool. So when you're looking for this tool, it's actually in the carpet section of most building supply stores, because it's actually a carpet tool that you would actually tuck the carpet into the place, but it does a really good job of getting your tape into the corners. So same idea where you can have the card being able to press the tape. This guy is great too. It actually kind of fits into your tool bag a little easier and easier accessible. Sometimes the cards, when you put in your back part, it kind of gets lost. So a nice, easy tool. Again, has a pretty good edge, and again, really allows for being able to get into your corners, being able to press, press the material right in there. Because a lot of times you're looking at air leaks. When we put our tape on with our hands, you can get a little bit of tenting in the corners where you got a little bit of a rounded edge. And when you have a nice tool, you can get a nice 90-degree corner with the pressing the tape into place. The next one, and another thing too, is if by chance, this falls off the ladder, this one falls off the ladder, you can always revert to, again, even a good old a speed square can help press the product in the tape, especially on the wider tapes. You can use it and really, get it and press it down. So you've got a bunch of different options if it comes down to it. And what's nice in construction is, you know, you got to find the tool that works for you, but those are definitely a bunch of options for getting the adhesive to work and ensuring that the tape actually sticks to where it is. One of those things too is once you swipe it, it's kind of like a Visa card. You bought it for life and you're moving on. All right. So the next one is stapling membranes. Now, most of the people that are dealing with either poly or Tyvek are using a hammer attacker. And every time you do that, yes, you're attaching that material in its place, but you're also pulling bullet holes in the material. And we talk about airtightness. We actually want to make sure that we're not creating holes. And so I tell contractors to take that tool, throw it back in the truck because you don't need it. You can go with, and this is actually a bit of a classic. I got this off my great uncle the other day. It is a handheld staple gun, right? This one, actually, here's the box. I think it's from 1960, but guess what? It still works. This is an Aero T55, still works like a hot damn and gets things where it needs to go. Now, people like, hey, Shaun, that's an old tool. I want a fancy tool. And so when you need to staple, you can pull out the Milwaukee handheld, again, battery operated for doing your membranes. So of course I didn't turn it on. Let's do that. So again, great tool, comes with a battery, fancy. People like being able to go fast. This tool can get you to be able to staple your membranes. Because typically, again, we're talking about membranes is that we're going to staple where the laps are. So we're not stapling in the field, and we're able to ensure that the membranes can get applied onto the walls. And again, you can tape the seams. So in a sense, the membranes are all ends up being monolithic and they're all connected and they're properly air sealed. So again, we've talked about knives. You talked about the applicator tool to ensure the high performance there. Talked about the staplers to ensure the membranes actually stay where they need to be. And lastly, or not lastly, but number 4 on my list is during the cold weather, keeping those fingers warm, talking about gloves. So you can see, I actually like these. People say, hey, Shaun, you're a bit of a wimp. But a lot of times, like I was up in Fort St. John -35, and these guys were great, super durable for moving around a bunch of different products and, you know, needing the tools. But when I had to get to the tapes, I could easily pull these off. Most people buy a set of gloves and they just cut off the fingers. But when you're into cold weather, it's nice to be able to, for the most part, have, you know, being able to, you know, stay warm. I know some people will, you know, cut off the thumbs because you need to, but for the most part, you can still use, you know, the high performance tapes, you know, quite well. So again, I've been able to cut it and be able to roll it off and separate that pretty quick. So I've separated the backing from the tape pretty quick, and then I can put this where I need to, in a sense, keep my fingies warm. And some of you might say, so Shaun, you should be a tough person and be able to do it. Yeah, well, maybe I'm not. But saying too is, even when it's on, you can, even with your mitts, use the applicator and ensure it gets to where it needs to go. So keeping warm in these cold conditions is a good thing. These are the 3M Insulate mittens and gloves. Do a great job. I'm actually quite warm, so I'll take those off. The new gun, the new toy that I just got that I've been playing around with, and for those, I know Adam White, he's got, again, a liquid applied product for air sealing, which is great. We used to have a liquid applied product that you literally just got in a jug, and you would brush it on, or you would have to get a spray gun to spray it on. But now we've got this new tool that's coming out to the market that I was playing with on a job site today. It's the Aerofix Gun, and again, connect the air to it, put in the cartridge. You can see it's still dirty from the job site it was on, and you're off to being able to air seal joints. You can either spray it on or get into the handy. It's a cool new gun that we're bringing to the market, and I had lots of fun with that today. So I think that rounds off Another little bonus tip, it might be a bit hard to describe, is when I was teaching a prefab company sailing site, is if you're got your walls are set up, you got your membrane hanging down, and you got to tape a really long seam. One way you can do it is you take your roll of tape on one end, you put a screw or a nail hole, and then you go to the other side, and you literally just make yourself a toilet paper roller, in a sense, where now you can apply this all the way along, because you know you're gonna have to go up and down the ladder if you don't have scaffolding set up, and so this is able to get you doing, you know, a 20-30 foot run, and you're going up and down the ladder, but you don't have to do just, you know, 4-foot sections. You can actually do the full price. So it's pretty unique. Because yeah, when it comes to air sealing, you're working on really 4 main issues. You got foundation to wall, wall to window, wall to roof, and then any of the plumbing and electrical and plumbing penetrations. So if you're able to do a service cavity, you'll eliminate a lot of the plumbing and electrical penetrations, and you can focus on those main joints, because typically the membranes are going to be able to hold in your sweater details and keep the house nice airtight. So those are kind of my 5 tools that I like to use. We'll turn it over to Mark and Kevin, and they can showcase their lovely tool set.
Shaun, that was great. That was really great. And by the way, your background, if everyone could take a second and look at what he has there, that sign should be posted on your job site. If y'all don't have that on there, now you know to go do it, right?
Talk about tools. Signage is a tool. There you go. There's number 6 of the list here. Add signage. Airtight building, no drilling or cutting. And the last one says, report all penetrations to your supervisor.
How's my video, Shaun?
You're looking good.
Okay. Thanks for lying, brother. So as I get warmed up, I'm just going to point out the fact, y'all see this, right? It says duct tape. Get rid of it. It has nothing to do with air sealing. I come from a world of carpentry, so I like to plan and move things along. And if you've known a carpenter very well, you've also known that they have a tendency to lose their pencils. As a carpenter, I find it very important to keep an array of pencils on a job site. The little ones for the small corners, and the big ones because you lose them all the time. I always start with pencils. Now, when it goes to my favorite tool, my favorite tool is that of knowledge. So you have the ability to take trainings, to call people, to review the videos, to cover the directions, and without those directions, you yourself become the tool. So you have on the job site lists of directions and how to review them. Those directions are important. So the next thing is, as Shaun knows, I was traveling, so I didn't have tools. So I asked people to send me some. So one of my favorite tools is the roller. And when you apply your membranes, you always want to make sure, your tapes rather, you always want to make sure to roll them. So please remember to always grab your roller and to keep it handy on your person. Shaun mentioned cutting devices. We all keep them handy. You keep those cutting devices handy with you, because without that, you're not going to have clean cuts. You want clean, tight, effective cuts. Sometimes when you're dealing with the foundation to the wall detail, you have stuff, as they call it, concrete rubble. So keep an old tool in your hand to keep that area clean and scrub free, so that your application is now going on a smooth surface, right? We love that. Shaun mentioned the ones that you get from the carpet supply store. When you're pulling out your membranes, they have the nice handles. It allows you to apply that membrane on a large surface area and really push it down, and then later on go back and roll it, roll it, roll it. When it comes to the corners, they make other rollers for that application, and the corner rollers allow you to really dive in there. This is not a durometer based roller. This is a hard plastic roller. So pushing it into that corner pocket allows you to get up one side, turn your roller, and get up the other side and really bring it in. Simple tools. We all know our friend Stephen Basic. We have the red line. So when we're brought to the project to take care of the air and vapor barrier, there is a detail that we are following. So we become the tool that is delivering the intended results of that detail. So my favorite tool is the education and the informing one another of what's necessary. And finally, delivering the message. And since I got the incredible package to help cover tools today, I believe we have to take action. We have to make awareness that there is an air sealing specialist, that there is a boss on the job. And so, you know, I always wear t-shirts. You got to push that forward and you got to tell people about it. So, Kevin, you have the mic, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Mark, nice presentation. Like to see you, as Susan said, still have your marbles and you found your tools. You know, I think it's great. Sense of humor is always there. So for you guys, I have a few site pictures I want to show, but just to keep the hands-on show and tell portion of it going. My general rule of thumb is you can't find air leaks unless you can see them. So a headlamp. The headlamp, this is the headlamp I use. It's a Petzl. It's very nice. It's bright. You can see it. I have it on, then I can work with two hands. All right. So if you can't see it, you can't fix it. So general rule of thumb is that you have to have lighting to see those things. The next thing that I like to try and wear whenever I know I'm working on my knees are those fine, the European Tradesman Kneepad pants. So they're out there. They're the back ladders, Mascot. I think Cat has a few, but I like the ones with the pouches in them, and the pouches have great, you know, ability to keep a lot of your tools, your knives. And the European tradesperson pants also come with they have like a spot for the fixed blade knife to fit in there. This is a Holtefors knife. When you're cutting 2.5-inch tape, you take the blade out and then you can cut the tape with, this is a serrated blade, and then it cuts the tape nice and easy. If I had a piece of tape I could show you, you fold it over on itself and then you pull the blade away from you. It cuts it really nice. This is a Holtefors knife. You can find it on Amazon. It's anywhere from like $15 to $20 for a fixed blade knife. The next tool that I have in front of me is the Tajima Japanese, I think it's a 20 millimeter adjustable blade. This is some of the sharpest blades on the market out there. They stay sharp for a long period of time. I use these a lot to make those intricate cuts on the inside or the outside of the corners. These are my general tools that I'll have in my pocket. As somebody who is not a finished carpenter and somebody who's crawled around attics for most of their career, it's not easy to go grab a measuring tape. And the beauty of air sealing is that you can sometimes eye it and you can make up for it. So marking a pencil and everything like that is great, but with air sealing, if it looks perfect, it is perfect. So my set of eyes and taking pictures and learning from my mistakes is my second best tool. I'm going to share my screen and pull up some site photos that I have from what I call my smart ass tools section. So my first smart ass tool that I like to pull up is it's my kit, right? So this is my general tool kit that I'll roll up on site with. It's a Milwaukee pack out. It has all my tools packed into the bottom that might need power drills, circular saws, whatever it might be. The job site radio is an essential to keeping happy workers. After kind of like the 12 o'clock after lunch, you know, break, you throw on some James Brown funk, and next thing you know, people are moving a little quicker, doing a little work a little easier. And then on the top of it is really the workhorse of the work that we do in air sealing. So when we're taping and sealing things, the vacuum is the God's greatest gift to the air sealer, because there's nothing on a construction site that is clean nor dry. And finding an outlet on a construction site is like a tug of war between everyone else that's working there. So having the ability to use an 18-volt, very good vacuum that can be rolled in and rolled out is an essential tool. The next tool you'll see here is the bucket of wipes. All right, so that's a Kimberly-Clark bucket of wipes that you add your own solution to. There's no lint, there's no residue. So my personal solution that I like to use, which became harder after COVID to use, was a 70% alcohol solution mixed in with a little water. And then when you wipe it, if just like any alcohol gets spilt on the ground, it evaporates very quick. So I wipe it, I clean it. I'm doing my white glove test to see if the surface is clean. I wipe again. If it's clean, then I'll let it dry, which should take around 10 to 30 seconds as I'm cutting my tape, and then I'll press it. So we'll back out of here. I'll show you my next step. Leading into that this is my on-site setup. So my on-site setup is really, it's denatured alcohol, the wipes, the vacuum, some primer if I need, and then my Tajima blades with backup blades for myself and the guys, and then the press fix and the roller. And this is the type of work that it produces, and it should be clean and neat and dry and look professional and be professional. The next set of tools are all the tricks in the tool book, right? So on-site labor is expensive and it takes time. So if you give these little grommets and gaskets to the general contractor team that is allowing people to do work in certain areas, they are going to put them on the pipes, the electric penetrations, and then they leave them for you to set up. It also acts as a really good guide of whoever you're handing them to. Just make sure there's enough space so that he can tape it on the other side. So this is kind of like my go-to general contractor box of tricks that I explained to him. You can either hand out a $5, $10 grommet, or you can pay one of us an hour, almost 2 hours to clean and seal what a penetration, which might be. Obviously, it's not an hour, but it could wind up being quite intensive when you're doing everything manually. My next set of tools is just prep work, right? So if you're doing inside corners, set up a cut station and make a bunch of them. Make sure that they're all perfect. You do that inside corner check. Leading on here, this is the cut station with the press fix and the tools and the wipes. This one here is the cool ass tool, or the way that we did one job where we had a 4-foot ladder, and on top of the 4-foot ladder, we mounted a piece of plywood, which was our roll holder and our cutting surface. We were installing membrane and tapes there, and a headlamp as well, press fix, knife, wipes, everything all in one location, so you're not going up and down. The innovation that happened there was adding the 2x4 or the 2x3 to make sure we kept dropping the roll on the floor, which is a pain in the ass. For the tools that are here, this is a Milwaukee caulk gun, but the headlamp, this is when I teach the air barrier class, kind of like the show and tell of installing air barriers for the class. A cutting board so you don't cut the tape, but this is something you would bring to the site if you were doing the demo. As I'm bringing up flashing, this is the fluid applied flashing done manually with a caulk gun. So that video just shows how you would use the caulk gun to install the fluid applied flashings on other systems. Window rough openings, the fluid applied flashing tends to be the latest, greatest innovation that's out there. All right, so now we're at sealing and tapes, all right? So on site, working with Ben Lear on a project upstate, we're installing the first round of the membrane on the ceiling. Anytime you're working above your head, it's a gigantic pain in the ass. So what we use is we try and use as much cordless tools as we can. And this is the 18-volt Milwaukee. After the 18-volt Milwaukee, we decided that we were going to go pneumatics with the air power. So the manufacturer recommends that you staple every 4 inches. In order to make sure that that happens, we go pneumatic, and that thing is almost semi-automatic in that it doesn't really need that space in between. That's called the G-Rex. That's a G-Rex, and it takes T50 staples, which is really nice. And this next video shows us going with the Milwaukee. See, they're working out the wrinkles. You can hear the difference between the two. So me and Ben rocking and rolling, and then Kelly and Tim working a little. Awesome. All right. So now we're going to get to my next favorite section, which is blower door testing, right? So we test all our own projects. It's a part of our work that we bring our blower door to the site. If we do a great job, we set up the blower door and we check all our own work, and then we try and find our own mistakes. It's just a part. It's a part of the process of the technology and the way that we kind of like do things scientifically. So this is not a blower door. This is a passive house blower door, in that it's a duct blaster or a duct tester that fits into our tight brownstones. And we're able to just throw this in a door or a window, and this sets us up for success. Now, every time we set up the blower door, we're like, oh man, we didn't hit our numbers, right? And what we use to find where our rates are is the smoke stick. Is the smoke stick. Smoke stick to help you find air leakage, get the blower door running. See the smoke going into the building. The fan is depressurizing it. We find this big fire. Got the blower door running on here. The smoke stick is my favorite tool. It's in that when you pressurize from the inside and you pressurize the building, it shows you exactly where the leaks are. There's no questions, there's no comments. You clean it up and you fix it right at the source. You don't just throw more tape or more foam on top of it. It gets you right to the point of the source. And we learned that right on our first project that we were helping out. One of the general contractors running the blower door, and we really spent days and days finding leaks. So the smoke stick was our tool that got us to that level where that project was passing. So just to share a few more tools and tricks. This is being proud of the work that you do on this project. It was a retrofit, so it's a brownstone retrofit that's not certified, but we got it to as close to certified as we can get. And really the smart ass tool here is the GC, the site supervisor, that is diligent and detailed oriented and make sure that everyone's following the rules and knows the rules of the game that they're working on a passive house. So this is Kyle from Tafara, great guy to work with. He also has his right-hand man, Lubo, who's his main carpenter on site every day. And they just make sure that all the subs that are working on the building and the project are going to do the right thing, and they're not going to make any holes in the building that compromise the air sealing. The last tool that I think I really have is blower door testing. Are these, instead of, a lot of times we'll have to take off ERV mounts and different plumbing chases. I was able to get these plumbing plugs that inflate, and then rather than having to mash them off, you sink them down into exactly where the air barrier meets the roof, and then you inflate them slightly, and then they plug the holes. That's something that we've ordered to make blower door testing a little easy. They come in like, this is a 4-inch or 4-inch one. They come up to like 6 to 8 inches. The ERVs that we mask off are like almost like 7 to 9 inches. So we have larger ones, but they're not readily available here in the US. I had to order them from Amazon UK, and I waited forever, but and then the last tool that I'll really show, because the fluid applied air barriers is what we covered last time, was this is after the membrane has been installed. And then we cut around the outside, and then you slice it off with the knife. You make sure that it's scraped off, and you come up with a sample, and then you measure the dry mill thickness in 1/1000th of an inch of how thick it is. And then working with the manufacturer, you would then find out how thick you need it to be. So for example, say the product is 60% solids, 40% is going to flash off in the air. So what should be left off from the wet mill thickness to that is 60% of that whole number. So this is from our other project. It was pretty good, but it's a way to let the guys on your team know, and also anyone doing the subcontract work, that that you're going to be checking them and making sure that's there. I'll share this the link to this in the chat if anyone has any wants to take a look at it or watch the videos or so. I'll stop sharing my screen and open it up to questions. I hope I didn't cover too much without.
No, No, great stuff. We actually have lots of questions queued up, so this is fantastic. While I'm doing that, Susan, you of course had a bunch, so we'll turn over to Susan in Toronto to get us started, and I will keep organizing all the questions. So, Susan.
Most of them was just being a smart ass at the beginning, but it is smart ass tools. So actually, thank you very much. That was a lot of fun. Kevin, hey, about your smoke stick, I saw that someone in the chat posted a different one, but can you talk a little bit about where you got it and how it works? Like, do you have to refill it and how long does it last and all that stuff?
So the sad news is that that smoke stick that I love not available anymore in that.
No.
It's toxic and it's not something that ships easy. The manufacturer, that's Retrotech, and they have a new fogger coming out. I see Franz with the douche. It's always funny, but on construction sites, walking around with a vape pen, you're not going to get good looks, especially in New York City when they have really like strict rules on smoking since the Deutsche Bank fire and stuff. But the other thing is that any of those types of vaporizers, they take heat and they manipulate the glycerine or whatever it might be to then create the smoke. So I don't like it. I like the chemical one that is a chemical air that's the same molecular weight as air. And then if I'm making sure that it's going away from my breathing zone, I'm not very concerned about the toxic level of that chemical because I'm making sure it's going across. There are other smoke sticks coming out. There's Retrotech Smell Zone that's really expensive that they sell from a third party. Look Solutions, but they're coming out with one that is great, I think, and that it can be hooked up Bluetooth and put on a stick. But I don't want to promote something that's not currently available right now.
You just said Bluetooth? A smoke stick with Bluetooth?
It's got like a remote control, and you can put it on a stick and get it all the way up to the top, and then hit smoke or something. It's got some features that I think are cool and innovative, but like today I was running late because I was at a site doing blower door testing, and we were just, nothing was working. The wind was working against us, and we're using the smoke stick to make sure that we're in pressurization or depressurization because we've been testing for 8 hours, and we're like, why are we not meeting this? So it's you are fighting the invisible is my point, in that anything you can use to visualize the invisible. I would have loved to show Sam's thermal imaging camera, but he refused to give it back to me for some reason. But that's another one that's good to bring up. But it is like ghost hunting, and that sometimes you'll see things that you don't see. So the thermal imaging camera is great, but it's not. I just saw in the chat that the smoke machine. I have used the smoke machine from the Halloween store. My problem with the smoke machine is that it puts out too much smoke. It needs a little smoke to find little holes and leaks. When you put out too much smoke and you fill the room, you don't know exactly where it's coming from. So that's my critique on the smoke generator.
Kevin, I would add to that, if you're wondering where the smoke is coming from, look for the guy in the room that's coughing. It's probably coming from him.
Hey, Mark,
Great.
while we got you, I think, was there a tool that we missed in your tool kit?
There is. Let me change my background, Shaun. And while I do that, I wanna say Susan and Hans and Franz have incredible participation awards for having props go on tonight.
Props. We got props.
You get props for having props. So I just changed my background, and there's a really cool tool that I have here, and we're going to change that because you don't want to see my face. And I've got myself a handy dandy tape dispenser, so I can turn around and I can pull out the size that I need and have it dispensed. And I got to tell you what, I wish I had this years ago. That is just genius. And I'm thrilled with it. So I was actually wearing this before, but I forgot to show it. So how you dispense tape and how you make the process of your applications allows you to focus on the job you're doing versus how you can get the job done. So think about that when you're doing these applications. And I pass the mic back to Shaun.
I have to,
Mark. Oh, sorry,
I
go
have
ahead,
to
Kevin.
call out Rich's comment.
Yeah.
Rich's comment was great. Everyone hoping and wishing Mark was actually wearing pants as he panned down with the tape dispenser was priceless.
So Kevin, I had this tape dispenser on when I presented, but I wasn't sure if I was wearing pants. So I'm glad I was able to come back to it because yeah, there you go.
I'm glad you did a double take to make sure that you were in pants, because we don't know what's happening below the belt in a lot of cases these days in the Zoom meetings. Again, great conversations going on in the chat. Thanks for letting us know what your tools are and what your favorite tools is. If you haven't mentioned it, please let us know. If there's another tool you're looking for, we'll try to put in some future specs of what's in there. But thanks, Susan. I know you had more, so we'll come back to you. We're going to head over to Chris Brown.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you? I didn't expect my name to come up. Yeah, well, I've been wondering about this for a while, and and I'm noticing Mark's Bernie pictures in the back. So I've been wondering about this for a while, but with tapes and membranes and all these things with adhesives, I was like, I've been wondering how temperatures and humidity affect these things, because I've lived in some warm areas, and I know that all kinds of adhesives just break down. So I've been wondering about these various tapes and membranes, like what sort of concerns there are regarding temperature and humidity and all that.
So I guess the scientific answer, Chris, is it depends, right? Because if you've been to certain job sites, there's tapes that are covered in staples because the tapes were ineffective, right? And they're blowing in the wind. There's other tapes which happen to be in the background, let's say that Shaun has, that I got to tell you, you shouldn't really have to worry about the weather. So I'm passing the mic to Shaun to give you a deeper dive.
I love how in our world we always just say the common answer, it depends. But Partel's tapes, Sega's tapes, 475 tapes, the standard tapes typically work to minus 10 degrees Celsius. Rothoblast has some tape that goes down to minus 25. I know we've got a beta tape working up in Fort St. John right now to see what temperature that'll work out. But most of the tapes, if it's too cold, you can easily, and again, this is so you'd have your, let's demonstrate this. You got your gloves on because it's cold, and of course you got your safety glasses on because it's a job site. You probably got a shiny vest on. But as you're pressing the tapes, so as you're pressing the tapes, that's right. So as you're pressing the tapes, with, in a sense, you're pressing the tapes, you'd actually have a heat gun, that would be your other tool, and you'd actually be warming up the tape. And if you warm the plywood up and the heat gun, so again, it's pretty tedious, but in those conditions where you got to get a job done, it'll happen. So,
and do the adhesives on these tapes over time, do they get affected by the fluctuations in temperature?
So again, Tesco and Vanna has been tested for 100 plus years. So it can go through a lot of the elements and work through. And again, I know the other high performance tapes are definitely in the 50 years plus. And I've seen at the Proclima lab where they have over 40 different products in their basement being tested. So most of them, again, I mean, they're high performance. Like when we're talking about high performance too, we talk about that durability and resilience, right? Like we're not just building these things for 5 years and making them airtight. We're talking about putting it on, and so that sweater and that air barrier are in place for like 100 plus years. Even windows, high performance passive rated windows, I mean, they've got a 25-year warranty, and most of them again are going to last a lot longer. where they're going to break down is the seal from the glass to the frame. But a lot of the double pane windows, they used to break right at the joints. Well, now these frames are so robust that they're going to be taken care of. And that's why we don't tape the exterior side of the bottom of our windows, because you're trying to make sure that if the window leaks, you get the water out. Well, in high performance, those leaks are not going to be there. And that's where we talk about air sealing the interior side of our windows. And you talk about, Mark, with, the red line, you can have an exterior air barrier, but on the windows, it's got to return inwards and carry through. And so the inside layer of the glass is actually the proper area of the air barrier. So again, understanding those lines.
To echo that, Chris, an incredible person out there that I think Kevin and Shaun have all had the chance to meet, and probably many of you, is Peter Yost. And he has a wing nut test facility. I'll let you figure out that acronym for yourself. And it's covered in tapes. and the tapes speak for themselves. So the example Shaun gave is, these tapes have been around for 100 years. So other tapes have not, right? There's different life expectancies because we don't know their life. So I encourage people, when you put a tape against something, if you can pull it off, that's probably going to be a pretty good insight that you're using it on the wrong material, or you should not have bought that tape in the first place. Most of the good tapes are, you don't want to get them off, right? It's like someone else's job. They're incredible. And when there's moisture around, Chris, I found that the tapes still perform well, right? It's the ones that have all these stringent routines. And as a carpenter guy, I keep coolers in my trucks, and in the trucks, coolers is where I keep the tapes and the caulks, because then they're always at a more controlled temperature too, because you're still your hands working with them, regardless that the tapes could perform, still your hands working with them. So you have to think about your hands.
And someone else that's in the chat, and I don't know if Jesse, if you came on late, but again, I showed you, Jesse Matthews is out there just chiming in the chat. And again, this is the trick that he taught me when I visited him many years ago, when he was still doing a lot of air sealing. And now he's teaching people about it. So Jesse's put a lot of comments and tools and tricks in the chat. So thanks, Jesse.
I also need to give Jesse a shout out for the G-Rex. The G-Rex stapler was his idea. He sent it to me. And he was one of the inspirations for this smart-ass tools, in that when we started the concept of this show, it's like, well, how did you learn what tools to use? Oh, we took a class and we talked about it, and then we kept that network alive. And then if we can keep that network alive with like sharing things and stories and better tools that keep coming out, the faster we all learn. And that's the goal of the Accelerator, is to speed up the learning environment so that not everyone needs to stumble and trip and fall for the first few times, that we can pick each other up and run together on many of these projects. And many of the reasons why I like to tell the stories of the other projects I worked on is so that, there's a little bit of belief in the story. Like when we first tried it on brownstones, it was the first time. It wasn't easy. We were trying new products and we had to chase our tail a little. And these are the tricks and tools of the trade, because really we're asking for people to find the invisible and to look at things that are new to them, like tapes and sealants and caulks, for perfection. Whereas old school way of caulking is anything that can be seen should look beautiful. Anything that's not going to be seen should just be filled. So, and caulk sealants, they hide a lot. They don't always mean that they're long-term and durable.
So Bob was wondering if again, this whole event will be archived and you can check it out in a couple of days on the Accelerator's YouTube channel. Kevin, always love the insight. You're probably one of the most experienced air sealers out there. Jesse, you're probably up there too. And again, the fact that we all continue to share in our tips and tricks. We're gonna go to Zach in a couple minutes, but just before we jump over to Zach, of course, we kind of jumped over the best tool on the job site. This guy up here, not the wood, but the head, which is about the common sense. And the other thing that we forget about too is the heart. A lot of times, again, if people aren't paying attention to what's going on, the heart's just not there. So we got our heads, we got our hearts. Zach, let's give us the uptake for next. What's going on?
All right, fantastic. You guys, this is a great session. Really, really cool. So I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors and, folks who have been on these calls. You've seen these names before. These are the companies that are supporting the work that we're doing at the Construction Tech Tuesday, at the happy hour, on the podcast, and at the summit. So we really have deep appreciation for their support. None of the work that we do would happen without it. Our founding sponsors are 475 High Performance Building Supply, Backstingui Architects, Glavel Foam Glass Gravel, Minotaur, Mitsubishi Electric Train HVAC US, Partel, RDH Building Science, StoCorp, and Zola Windows. Our stakeholder partner is NYSERDA, and our patron sponsors are BR Plus A Consulting Engineers, Brennan Installation and Airtightness, Innotech Windows and Doors, and US Engineered Wood, T-Stud. We've got a great episode on the podcast right now with Prudence Ferreira, who I think everybody on the call is very familiar with. You may not know her journey to Passive House and her roots in dance, so you want to check that out. She also talks about really fascinating developments that are going on around evolutionary algorithms and machine learning and how that can apply to high performance building design. So it's really hopeful and exciting and cutting edge stuff. Tomorrow, we have a great happy hour presentation by Dennis Wedlich of AIA Custom Residential Architects Network. He is a very accomplished architectural designer with work that's been award-winning and featured at design museums, and he's amazing. He also is a Passive House pioneer and has really focused on the impact that Passive House can have on energy poverty and eliminating energy poverty. And so the story he's going to tell tomorrow with 3 projects around what he calls a rural build will dive into that. And I think you'll find it really inspiring and exciting stuff. Next week at Construction Tech, we have Jeevan Thaker of HVAC Systems and Solutions presenting. And we've got a great happy hour with Laszlo Lepp, who will be talking about this Innsbruck Enerfit plan, a really cool retrofit project in Austria. Finally, we just released our first issue of Passive House Accelerator magazine. And this is a direct outgrowth of the Passive House Buildings magazine that's been produced for years by Mary James as editor on behalf of Low Carbon Productions. She's now with the Accelerator and has produced our first issue that's focused on prefab. So please check that out as well. And I'll hand it off to our co-hosts. Thanks.